Blog Talk Radio.
Today we have Pamela Sweeten she's the owner of Sweeten Consulting and a representative for Advanced Traceability Solutions and ScoringAg. She's also an advocate for food safety, or safe food. Pamela was born and raised in the Central Valley of California, attended California State University at Stanislaus as a communications major, and graduated in 1988. She immediately began to work for her family in the almond industry, working through Ned Ryan at Ryan Pereira Almond Company. And through her involvement with ARPAC, she learned the transportation and logistics end of her industry, and also went on to develop grower relations program with introducing farmers to the ARPAC organization. Additionally, she also created a program for the shelling and the soft shelling of her industry in the almond industry, and also quickly building her knowledge base. She was involved in almond processing. And additionally, she worked for California Women for Agriculture and American Agriculture Women, Agri-Women. Additionally, she has always been a Central California FFA booster. That's Future Farmers of America and the Children's Hospital. And we now welcome Pamela Sweeten to our show to discuss her topic of today, which is the Traceability Act. Pamela?
Good afternoon, Andy.
Hi. I was a little slow starting that out, but we'll get it going. Today's topic is the introduction of traceability and the relationship to the new Food Safety Modernization Act. Pamela, would you like to add anything to your introduction?
Well, I appreciate the introduction. It was very generous of you. However, I did not grow up on an almond farm. I just had one around my house. So we weren't farmers. We were city people, just on the edge of town.
Great. So as we look at the history of traceability, why is traceability of food products critical?
Andy, with our latest research, foodborne illnesses has been a significant burden. About 48 million people, that's 1 in 6 Americans, get sick every year. 128,000 are hospitalized, with approximately 3,000 passing away because of foodborne illnesses. Our food supply is more high-tech and complex, with 15% of our U.S. food supply being imported from other countries. With more foods in the marketplace on a daily basis, we, of course, have new hazards that we need to deal with that we didn't previously see in our food supply.
Pam?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was just going to go on, excuse me, to say that, with all these new foods that we eat that aren't in season typically in the United States, and we import so many more foods, that is a reason that we need to have more increased traceability and complete the process all the way back to the farm for the consumers.
Very good.
Thank
I really like the summary of the issue of traceability. What about the historical methods that food producers have used to engage traceability, trace it back to its source?
Unfortunately, we have not had a very complete system. While the farmers do their harvesting in the fields, we probably lack a lot of documentation coming from that end of the industry going to the processors. So the processors don't really know exactly where the product came from. They might know a field name or an approximate location, or at least the farmer's name. But so many farmers have various fields, or they have very large fields. So we need to have a more intricate system that can get us back to the location of the product that was harvested. And with that, we've had the typical bill of ladings or, a delivery report. Of course, when the cash register rings at the grocery store, it tells us what was sold. With the new technology, and those have all been fine in the past, but moving forward and with club cards and membership clubs, they were able to find out who bought the food. So if there was a recall, they could possibly, keep you from consuming the product at home if it was from a store of that sort. So those are some of the historical things that have happened in the past. And we've seen, and unfortunately, there's a need for stricter guidelines on what we've done to prevent so many illnesses and deaths.
So what I'm hearing from you, Pam, is that historically there have been a wide variety of paper-based systems that have been very ineffective in helping the epidemiologist trace back a potential foodborne pathogen from the victim of the foodborne pathogen back to the producer. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. It takes, hours, days, weeks, and every time, there is an outbreak, and with that type of a process, every day that a melon is on the shelf or Brussels sprouts are in the store or alfalfa sprouts or, even candy bars that, had issues or dried fruits, this crosses all the bases. We have contamination in so many areas, from our dog food to our animal or our human consumption. So if we can, get this to an electronic state and get the product off the shelves faster, we're just going to decrease the risk of people consuming in, products that are contaminated.
Wonderful. Recently the federal government has passed a new law that was signed about almost a year ago now. It's called the Food Safety Modernization Act. How does that increase the responsibility of food producers in the area of traceability?
Well, with the Food Safety Modernization Act, a lot of teeth, if you want to use that term, FDA actually uses it on one of their handouts, were put into place to have a fine that would go along with miscompliance or uncompliance of the law. Back in 2002, with the bioterrorism law that President Bush signed, we had a record-keeping segment included in that law for documentation of foods being moved from on the farm location to the processor, from the processor to the store, so that there would be complete traceability and record-keeping that was to be electronic at that time. And then we had the 2006 country of origin labeling law that took place. And what happened, they were voluntary. They didn't have any fines that came along with them. So with the 2011 Food Safety Modernization Act that was signed last January, there were fines that were put into place. And that was, in essence, to get people to comply with the voluntary laws that had been there for some time. So we have, now we're going to have expanded administrative detention, where FDA now has authority to stop and hold product at the port, or even in our own fields if they feel like it's adulterated or misbranded or could be potentially harmful to the consumer. FDA has been given that authorization to hold products for 30 days, which is very critical. If you're in the food safety industry, you want to make sure that the food you have coming through is safe. But if you're a processor or you're a farmer and you can't harvest or go in your fields for 30 days, you're going to have a big problem. Not many crops can sit and wait.
Very good. That's a fascinating historical development that you've given us. And for food producers, and that's a wide swath, because you're talking about people that actually grow the products, people that process it, and then people that transport it and eventually retail it or wholesale it to the consumers. What are the traceability elements that each of those elements play, or those providers play, in the market?
Well, as you said, it is a wide swath, and it does affect everything that is for animal or human consumption. So on the animal side, we have people that grow alfalfa that is sold to dairies for their cows to eat, that produce the milk that makes our cheese and our ice cream. So there needs to be a record-keeping system in place for the alfalfa grower that would be able to, document what he's done to raise that food that he is going to ship off to that dairy. So ScoringAg is a record-keeping system available to farmers for a minimal cost, because that's one thing FDA didn't want was a large burden on the farmer. So they have obviously done this in such a way as a stakeholder within the law to make sure it was efficient, but yet would meet what FSMA and FDA had expected it to do. Therefore, we have seen where the farmer can start his records. He's given a unique SSI number that is the ScoringAg system number that will follow his product for each record onto the processor. So if he's selling almonds from his field, that number starts in the field, and they document each load that comes out of the field. Almonds are then loaded into large containers in a field, 18-wheel containers, a set of trailers that go to the sheller, huller processor. That's the first step, where they take off the outer hull and they take off the shell. The hulls are sold to dairy farmers that are used as a protein in their feed rations for their cows. The shell is used a lot of times for bedding for dairy animals. So those are both items that would need to have documentation. So that SSI number that's given to that farmer is then given to the sheller, so that sheller can document where those hulls came from, so that we don't have aflatoxin issues that could affect the dairy cows. That's something we want to alleviate or not have an issue with. And also that SSI number goes on to the almond processor that's going to take those almond meats, which is the kernel that you or I purchase at the grocery store. So that kernel that you're going to get at the grocery store will have a number on it, and it will go back with a photo and picture and documentation in the ScoringAg record-keeping system, where the consumer can actually type in that number and bring up their records that go on the public record side that followed that product and the steps that it took to get to the consumer's household. We have a company called New Line Co. that's actually using the product, and so each of their pieces of fruit that they're selling in the grocery store have a documented number with the picture on their website that you can see the packing facility, you can see the orchard, as well as the tree, or rather grove, because they're doing avocados. So this is just how the process has evolved and touching all areas and all aspects of our food supply, whether it's a byproduct of a product or if it's the actual product going to the consumer.
Well, Pamela, I'm very impressed. In our slide presentation for this show is a bit of the hardware that goes along with this system. Can you identify some of the items? I see a smart PDA, I see a mobile computer, I see a printer configuration. Can you review some of that technology with us?
Absolutely, Andy. We have two PDA options. We offer one that basically it's a phone, so it can transmit with Wi-Fi connection or internet capabilities in the field, but it also has a scanner built in, and that's the Cadillac version. And then we have the Chevrolet that doesn't have a scanner, doesn't have a phone, but it's the basic tool that the farmer could use for his documentation. We set those up with various screens, whether it's for their production, for growing the food in the field, or for harvest. And we set those up in multiple languages if needed.